Greetings to each of you and a shout out to the wonderful members of Community Temple Church of God in Christ, and to our many visitors and friends, and to the saints of the Illinois Central Jurisdiction. We're located on the south side of Decatur, Illinois. God will never ask us to do what He won't help us to accomplish. We're asked to do many things. Many are daunting and most challenging. Amidst the many vicissitudes of life, He asks us to be thankful. He does it because He knows the benefits of being thankful while being in difficult places. Come and go with us into the message at this time. From the Word of the Lord. Our subject will be coming from the book of 1 Thessalonians chapter 5, verses 16 through 18, and 2 Corinthians chapter 12, verses 7 and 8. Reading from 1 Thessalonians chapter 5, verse 16 through 18. It reads, "Rejoice evermore, pray without ceasing. In everything give thanks, for this is the will of God in Christ Jesus concerning you." 2 Corinthians chapter 12, verse 7 and 8. Paul says, "Unless I should be exalted above measure through the abundance of revelations, there was given to me a thorn in the flesh, the messenger of Satan to buffet me, lest I should be exalted above measure." Our subject for these next few moments is entitled, "How to be Thankful in a Difficult Place." How to be thankful in a difficult place. And if it's no surprise, we're living in a world that is moving at an alarming pace with new medical discoveries occurring almost daily. We have new, unheard of technical gadgetries unfolding before our eyes, with the new production of electric and biofuel cars now cruising on streets and highways. This world is moving so fast until people have no time to stop to say hello to their own next door neighbor. We're moving so fast until many families are going and coming like evening rush hour traffic. Family members can seldom see each other at all at one time during the course of an average day. We're moving so fast, and yet it appears at times we're going nowhere. It is easy to become wrapped up in our regimented schedules to the point of actually missing out on the more important things of life, like good rest, adequate exercise, healthy eating, spending quality time with family, and more importantly, spending time with God and being actively involved in the service of the Lord. I know that speed is necessary at times, and there are times when we need to get in a hurry. But I'm reminded of the conversation that took place between a news reporter and an experienced African safari guide. The reporter asked the safari guide, he said, "Say, I heard that if you held up a lighted torch while in the jungle, the animals won't harm you." He said, "Is that true?" The safari guide said, "It all depends on how fast you can run with the torch in your hand. In this particular case, speed would be very important. But in life, one ought not get in a hurry just for the sake of being in a hurry. And you ought not be in a hurry just because the crowd is in a hurry. Sometimes it's good to slow down enough just to catch up with yourself. The prodigal son gives us an example of how easy it is to trade in the important things of life for the fast lane of unimportance. I'm sure many can remember the story of how the prodigal son left the security of a comfortable home in a hurry to get to the land of sadness and regret. Can't you see him in a hurry to get his inheritance from his father? In a hurry to pack up his possessions? In a hurry to leave his comfortable home? In a hurry to get away to that far-away country? In a hurry to spend up all of his money? And then in a hurry to find food to eat and a place to lay his head? If he had known what he was really doing, he would have realized that with all of his hurriedness, he was only trying to get to the hog pen. The devil has a way of leading us onto the fast track of life in an attempt to sway us away from the most important priorities of human living. And the one priority that is most important and more important than anything in this world is the priority of soul salvation and soul preservation. It takes God to keep us. But soul preservation cannot occur without our willful participation. At some point, we have to declare from within our own hearts that God is more important to us than anything else in this world. We've got to get it on the inside, just like the psalmist had it, who said, "As the hart panteth after the water brooks, so panteth my soul after thee, O God." We have to get it so deeply ingrained in our will that we say it like David said it. In Psalms 84, verse 2, "My soul longed, yea, even fainted for the courts of the Lord. My heart and my flesh cried out for the living God." The Apostle Paul wanted Jesus to live in him so much until he said in Philippians chapter 3, verse 10, "That I may know him and the power of his resurrection and the fellowship of his sufferings, being made conformable unto his death." And that should be the desire of every believer. But we must remember that every now and then, God can give to us a little bit of the Job treatment in our walk with him. God will wrap himself up in the garments of darkness. He will hide himself in the stillness of the night. He will turn off the volume of his soothing and compassionate sweet voice so that even the listening ear cannot hear. He will let the dark clouds roll in. He will let the lightning and the thunder crash in upon us with pain and suffering. He will let the trials of life, like the waves of the sea, splash up against our very own souls. And if that's not enough, he will let disappointments come. He will let misfortune come. He will let heartache come. He will allow us the experience of feeling bewildered and forsaken. He lets us feel the agony of pain and of sorrow. He lets us experience the unexpected bends on the road of life. And one of the best ways of keeping the relationship alive during those most difficult times is to hold on to a verse that can be found in our opening text, 1 Thessalonians chapter 5, verse 18, which reads, "In everything give thanks. But this is the will of God in Christ Jesus concerning you." What a tremendous challenge. And I will be the first to admit that this challenge is not always easy, because we are prone to be thankful only when we are the recipients of good things. We're prone to be thankful when we are the recipients of cold cash, wonderful gifts, welcome compliments, good news. But the real problem with holding on to that verse comes when we become the recipients of the not so good. It becomes a problem holding on to that verse when we become the recipients of the unexpected troubles of life. And yet we are admonished in this verse to give thanks in everything. But I want you to stop for a moment and think about it. Isn't it reasonable to believe that before God gave this particular word to the Apostle Paul, that God himself had already determined that there would be instances where his children would have times when it would be difficult to smile, difficult to rejoice, difficult to be happy? I believe that it is reasonable to believe that God knew that in all of our lives there would be those particular instances when we would be less inclined to be hopeful and more inclined to be doubtful. You knew that there would be times when our minds would be under pressure. God knew that there would be times when the trials would be hot and intense. He knew that there would be those times when sickness would attack our bodies for no apparent reason. But he also knew that through the pain, through the sufferings, through the misunderstandings, through the tears, through all of the ups and the downs, that in him we would still have reasons to rejoice. Therefore, when he instructs us that in everything we ought to give thanks, he's not telling us that we are to be joyful for the actual misfortunes and heartaches that we experience, but he's telling us to be thankful in them. And we can be thankful in them because the loss, the heartbreak, the misfortune is never the end of our story. Oh no. As long as God is God, we are never without hope. As long as God is God, the Lord is still our shepherd, and we shall not want. Oh, praise his name. As long as God is God, 1,000 may fall by our side and 10,000 at our right hand, but it shall not come nigh unto us. I'm about to close here. In our text, we have Paul the Apostle, who had entered into an unpleasant dilemma within his own spiritual walk with God. He was faced with a problem that was beyond his control. At the peak of his ministry, he experienced what was a thorn in his flesh. It is not clear what the thorn was. Some say that it was the blindness of his eyes. Others say that it was a particular brother within the church. Whatever the case, it was not within Paul's ability to correct the problem. But Paul, being a praying man, understood the power of prayer. For God had used Paul's own ministry in performing many miracles. But this problem was unique in that it would not go away. Let's read a little bit of it here in 2 Corinthians, the 12th chapter, verse 10. We read it earlier. And it reads, "And lest I should be exalted above measure through the abundance of revelations, there was given to me a thorn in the flesh, the messenger of Satan to buffet me, lest I should be exalted above measure." And Paul goes on to say, "For this thing I besought the Lord thrice, that it might depart from me. And God's reply was, My grace is sufficient for thee, for my strength is made perfect in weakness." But here is that part of the verse that most of us overlook. we can grasp the grace part. We understand what that means. We understand God giving strength for the problem. But we struggle with that glory part. Paul says, most gladly, therefore, will I rather glory in my infirmities, that the power of Christ might rest upon me. Paul is saying here, now that I know what my suffering is producing, I'm thankful even in my suffering. He goes on to say, therefore, I take pleasures in infirmities. I take pleasure in reproaches. I take pleasure in necessities, in persecutions, in distresses for Christ's sake. For when I am weak, then am I strong. Well, in my closing here, I think we all can agree that sickness is a difficult place. Divorce and separation are difficult places. Dealing with the loss of a loved one is difficult. Church splits are difficult. Rejection without a cause is difficult. But I'm determined to be thankful, and this is why, because I heard an old hymn, and we started singing it again. It says, I don't know about tomorrow. I just live from day to day. I don't borrow from the sunshine, for its skies may turn to gray. I don't worry about the future, for I know what Jesus said. And today I walk beside him, for he knows what lies ahead. And then I love this other verse that says every step is getting brighter. As the golden stairs I climb, every burden is getting lighter. Every cloud is silver lined. It gets that way when you've been walking with the Lord sometime. Oh Lord, many things about tomorrow I don't seem to understand, but I know who holds tomorrow, and I know who holds my hand. Well, I pray that you've enjoyed the message on this evening and something was said to encourage your heart. I want to remind someone who is now in a difficult place in your life. I want you to remember that God is with you. God is for you. And that in itself is much to be thankful for. I heard Mr. Clean, Bishop White, say that thanks makes room for more. Thankfulness expresses to God how much we love and appreciate him. Never lose your sense of thankfulness. If you would like for us to pray with you regarding any concerns on your heart, please go to our webpage at welcometocommunitytemple.com. and leave a prayer request, and someone will respond. Never take your blessings for granted. Keep your memory fresh of his goodness and his kindness unto you by being thankful unto God every day. Till we meet again, be thankful and bless his name.